All right, terrorism charges filed against the man accused of stabbing 11 people at a Michigan Walmart. This as we learn more about the everyday people who stepped in to help prevent further tragedy.
It's been a crazy weekend here in Traverse City, Michigan. I'm not going to go over the details too much because it's already been over-reported on. Everyone's talked about it 6 weeks from Sunday. And of course, as to be expected on Overheard and, Facebook in general, the virtue signaling and people using this tragic event for just Facebook likes and just a virtue signal so they can make themselves look like better people. So I'm not going to go over it too long. I'll just skim over it real quick.
Senior correspondent Mike Tobin is in Traverse City, Michigan for us. So Mike, this suspect is no stranger to law enforcement, is he?
In fact, Sandra, out of Emmett County, Michigan, there was an active court order to pick this suspect up, and it was issued just shy of 24 hours before the attack here at the Walmart in Traverse City. In the last 19 years, Bradford James Gilley generated at least 26 criminal charges in Emmett County, Michigan alone, including 2016 when he was charged with disinterment and mutilation of dead bodies and malicious destruction of tombs and memorials. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity. He also had criminal mischief charges in Duval County, Florida. There are drug charges in there as well. The Grand Traverse County Sheriff said he knew he was dealing with a mental health case right away.
The suspect has had prior law enforcement contact, and whether or not there's a mental health component, my personal opinion, as I previously stated, was anytime someone commits an incident like this, there has to be some sort of mental crisis taking place of some sort.
The weapon seized was a folding knife with a 3.5-inch blade. A group of citizens confronted Gilley in the parking lot here. One of them, Derek Perry, had a gun. Perry briefly served as a U.S. Marine. They held Gilley in the parking lot until the sheriff deputies could get there.
Throw it away! Drop it! Drop it! Call the police. Throw the knife that way! Throw it away! Throw it away!
Hey, he hasn't dropped it!
Right now! Get the down!
Gilley is now in the Grand Traverse County Jail. He's looking at 1 charge of terrorism and 11 charges of assault with intent to murder. Of the 11 stabbing victims, 1 has been released from the hospital. Only 1 remains in serious condition. 2 were transferred to be treated elsewhere. The rest are in fair condition. Sandra?
All right, Mike Tobin there in Traverse City, Michigan. Mike, thank you.
This weekend, some douchebag, coward, not going to use his name, went into Walmart, started stabbing people. 11 people got injured, but as of today, no one's in serious condition, and 1's even been released from Munson. So they're all going to make it. Everyone's going to be fine. And so there are a couple things that I would like to bring up concerning this situation. And as much as I don't like to use a tragedy to, kind of promote stuff, unfortunately, in some circumstances, it seems to be the only way to get a message across to people. In addition to this, I'm not doing it for me. I'm not doing it for any particular martial arts facility, but I want to get this message out because it's important for everyone, not only for Traverse City, but anyone else around the world that may watch this. And that is, we need to take self-defense more seriously. We're glamorizing a guy with a gun. Not saying he did anything wrong, even though he did hold it like this, when anyone that's trained should know that you hold it like this. That's a small little critique, but when accuracy really matters, you really need to hold it properly. That all out of the way, I'm glad he was there. I'm not saying that he's a bad person or anything like that, but if we had combatively trained, competent individuals out there, this situation could have actually been stopped much faster, much earlier, more people saved that much faster. It's a really, really tragic situation, and while it may not have been the best of endings, it still ended on a good note, because ultimately everyone's gonna make it out. Everyone's gonna be okay. But the two main things that I want to bring as kind of like talking points in regard to what we can better ourselves and learn from this is, one, combat proficiency, combat competency, combat training. See, we shouldn't need to overly depend on objects. I'm not just saying firearms, objects, anything that can be used as a weapon. I mean, you shouldn't need to use anything as a weapon. I don't care if it's a fucking can, you know, it's still something that you can hit someone with, right? We shouldn't need to overly depend and overly rely on objects, firearms, knives, anything, whatever. Because we can only have at least those that follow the rules, I guess, and are legal about stuff. You can't bring them into certain buildings, certain facilities, certain locations. But you know what I can bring with me into those buildings, facilities, and locations? My combat proficiency, my combat training. Yep, my skill set in combat. And so with that said, as fortunate and as thankful as I am that that male was there with his firearm, I would also just like to say that if there were more combatively trained individuals there, it wouldn't have gotten to that point where he needed to do that. It would have been done well before that. Which brings me to my next point too, and that is awareness. I've seen a couple videos of just people, it was shortly after the one gal got stabbed, and she was sitting on the floor and her child was crying, and she was saying, you know, I don't want to die. It was heartbreaking to watch, sure, but the amount of people that were just kind of casually walking by, just pushing their cars and just not really knowing what was going on was mind-blowing to me. Situational awareness, self-awareness, just being cognizant in general, so important. This would have helped so much, because people are in their own little world or whatever the hell they're doing, that they're not paying attention. They're not aware of their surroundings. Their situational awareness is not there. This would have helped as soon as the first event happened. You know, somebody yelled out or whatever. They wouldn't just assume that, oh, you know, just someone being obnoxious or something. No, they would have been alert to that noise. Now, by no means am I saying be paranoid and every little sound you hear be all like, no, I'm not saying go overboard with it. I'm just saying be aware. If you hear a noise that doesn't sound right, maybe be alert. Or if it compels you, check out where that noise came from. Make sure that someone's okay. That way it gives you the opportunity to act accordingly. You can tell others, let others be aware if they're not. You know, say, hey, something just happened, because you were paying attention, because you were self-aware, because your situational awareness was present. You know, you can save people even if you're just saying, hey, something's going on. You know, you don't have to be the hero. You know, you can be the information spreader, you know, just by being aware. And so those two things would make a world of difference in this situation. So I really do hope that I may be inspired or at least, at the very, 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 very least, brought awareness to these two things. Even if you don't join a martial arts facility or start training, at the very least, minimum out of this video that you can do for yourself and your community is just be a little bit more aware. Be present in the environment that you're in. Clearly the world is becoming a much more dangerous place. I mean, I don't need to say that. I mean, I've lived in Traverse City in the northern Michigan area all my life, right? Northport all the way to Traverse City. This is the first time that I've heard of any mass event like this ever happening. So I don't need to tell you that the world's becoming more and more egregious. This is basically the safe space of northern Michigan and the world in general, because like shit doesn't happen here, right? But now shit is finally starting to happen here. I don't think I need to be any more clear than that. So because we're no longer as safe as we otherwise would be, I feel the need to just kind of hammer it in there and say, hey, pay attention. Hey, learn how to defend yourself. I don't care what style it is, but learn how to defend yourself. I could give you my recommendations. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that'll cover your ground game, your throws, takedowns, etc. And American Kempo, that'll cover everything else. It's just a more advanced version of what I will say is kickboxing, because not only are you learning punches and knees and kicks, but you're also learning joint manipulations, blocks, pushes, you know, things of that nature. American Kempo, that'll cover everything in regard to your stand-up game, right? Everything that requires you to be upright.
Go after the neck. Then as the head comes in, I'm going to shoot my fingers to his eyes, and with this drawn, he's lined up perfectly for an uppercut. If he happens to come back in, I take a zone of sanctuary, do a short chop, continue the motion of the right arm, and hand sort of back to the neck, and then I'll cover out on a 45-degree angle. Steps in, I go after the neck, use the heel palm or fingers to the eyes, and now his eyes are blinded to this uppercut. And now, as he comes back in, I take a 45-degree angle, I don't stop the motion of the right arm, and then that feeds my cover out to 430.
And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that'll cover everything that isn't stand-up, that isn't you being on your 2 feet.
We gotta remove one arm because we want one arm out of guard.
Yeah, one arm in, yeah.
True. And so we push out like that.
Yeah. Throw that sucker over.
Yep. Boom. And then fold the arm in and like that.
Nice. Yeah.
It'll help you with submissions, joint locks, chokeholds, throws, everything else that you need to know. So by having American Kempo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu combined, you're going to be a walking tank. And with that too, you learn a lot of weapon defense, because the physics still apply. Whether the person has a stick or a knife, the human body still is the same. And yes, you do, I'm not going to say you're going to be invincible. There's always a chance that you're going to get a little bit of an injury. Maybe he'll get a whack in, or when you're going in and doing something, he may slice you or something. But if you really think about it, in the end, I don't mind getting a little bit of a cut, or personally taking in a deep gash or whatever, so long as it means I can prevent a tragedy from occurring, or stop a tragedy in the middle of it happening. You know, it's a mixture of doing what you have to do, using the skills that you have. And so that's why I keep saying, like, this really could have been stopped earlier if there were combatively trained individuals. So I think I've gotten to the point across here, and that is, please invest in self-defense, or at the very least, be more aware, be more cognizant. Situational awareness. Be present in the moment. Don't be paranoid, but be present. And I'll end this with, again, stating that I'm proud of the people that did what they did. I'm not going to virtue signal over here and worship one individual like so many are. They're glamorizing just the guy with the gun. But I'm going to shout out to the entire group of individuals. Thank you to the entire group. The guy with the cart, keeping distance. Very smart, very cool. I saw that. I knew what you were doing. Good on you for that. You were using what you had and the skill set that you had, your smarts, to keep distance from that guy. Because if the guy was going to lunge, you were going to use that cart to keep distance and maybe, you know, hit the guy with it or something. So good on you for that. Very smart. I appreciate that. To the guy that tackled the douchebag, good on you. That took a certain amount of bravery and courage, because even though the African American had the douchebag by way of gunpoint, still doesn't guarantee that you're going to be safe when you go for that tackle. So good on you for that. And good for anyone else, you know, the other people that were there in that group that showed up, even if you guys were just yelling and intimidating the guy, showing that you're not going to back down in a numbers game. Sure, he had a weapon, but you guys had numbers, which, especially for someone like him, because he's obviously a coward beyond cowardice, he's going to back down from that. He was clearly trying to get away from you guys. And so, as a group, you guys did spectacular. And again, even though you're kind of weird, holding the gun kind of funny, good job for you. I'm glad that you had your firearm present and that you did what you did. But as a group, great job, great job. You used what you had, you used the skills that you had, you used your minds, you worked together, and as a team, you stopped him from doing any more damage, you stopped him from getting away, and you made it for an easy arrest for the police. So I'm sure the police department appreciates that too, just for the simple fact that it was an easy arrest and no one had to die. As much as I wouldn't mind the douchebag that stabbed people to die, because he definitely deserved it, in the end he will hopefully get something worse than death, and that's being locked forever and ever until he dies in a tiny little jail cell, and people will take care of him in there, I'm sure. And the best part is that coward won't have a knife to work with in jail. So he'll get his ass beat because clearly he depends on a weapon because he doesn't know how to fight. So while I would prefer him to be 6 feet under, at the same time, it's just as gratifying in its own different way to know that he's going to be getting dealt with in jail, and that he won't have any weapons to save his sorry ass with. So with all that said, it's really unfortunate that this happened, but nevertheless, I'll see you in the next one.